This week's Bible verse comes from James 4, verses 1 through 4. Do you know where your fights and arguments come from? They come from the selfish desires that war within you. You want things, but you do not have them. So you are ready to kill and are jealous of other people, but you still cannot get what you want. So you argue and fight. You do not get what you want because you do not ask God. Or when you ask, you do not receive because the reason you ask is wrong. You want things so you can use them for your own pleasures. So you are not loyal to God. You should know that loving the world is the same thing as hating God. Anyone who wants to be a friend of the world becomes God's enemy. So what those verses are saying is that you should pray with the right motives. And I want to be very clear when explaining it is God is not a genie who grants your every wish. What does that mean, you ask? Well, here's an example. Say you really want to go out with the person that you really like or buy a new pair of shoes, so you ask God to provide a person to give you money or do something different. But here's the thing, it's like, are you asking with the right motives to get what you want? The whole point of this verse is when we treat God as a genie, we're just really using God for his goodness rather than submitting our lives to him. And I often do this as well, and I need to work better on it, is we just treat God as if he's just a genie. But the more I've grown in my faith with the Lord, I've realized that God is not a genie. He does not give us everything we ask for. He knows our hearts, he knows our thoughts and our minds better than we do. He knows that our feelings will not last. The main point of these verses in James 4 is to help us understand that we should not go along with what the world is doing just because it makes us feel better. Rather, we should understand that God has a reason for us as believers to not indulge in what the world says is right or normal. Now you might ask, how can I grow my faith in the Lord and try to be more like Jesus? Well, the first thing I want to tell you is we need to pray with sincere hearts. That means not just praying for God to only fix things, but also to thank him for what he has done in our lives, for our jobs, for our families, for our friends. And then the second thing we need to do is we need to love the people who do not like us. As Jesus says in Matthew 5:43 through 44, you have heard that it was said, love your neighbor and hate your enemy. But I tell you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you. The world wants us to hate our enemies and to treat people that we do not like as our enemies. However, God tells us that it's important to love our enemies. It may sound crazy, but those are God's words, and the Bible is God's word. So if you have any questions or any thoughts about this video or this message that I gave to you, please drop them in the comments. And I hope that this video has encouraged or even challenged or inspired you to live life to the fullest with God. Bye, guys.